From humble origins on the Isle of Man to their stratospheric climb to international superstardom, the Gibb brothers, Barry, Robin, and Maurice left a legacy that continues to resonate with listeners across the world. Join us as we look at the Bee Gees' incredible lives and careers, from their early hardships and breakthrough moments to their transformation into disco icons. The early beginning and popularity in Australia. Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb were three brothers born in the Isle of Man in the late 1940s. Their father, Hugh Gibb, moved the family to Chorlton-cum-Hardy, Manchester, England in 1955. Here, their musical adventure began to take form. They formed the Rattlesnakes with their friends Paul Frost and Kenny Horrocks, combining skiffle and rock and roll influences. Barry played guitar and sang, and Robin and Maurice also provided vocals. A chance encounter at one of their early performances at a local cinema, where a broken record forced them to sing live, resulted in an unexpectedly enthusiastic reception from the audience, inspiring their desire to pursue a singing career. The Gibb family decided to travel to Australia in August 1958, landing in Redcliffe, Queensland. This colorful milieu provided good ground for the brothers to hone their musical abilities. Bill Good, a speedway promoter and driver, played an important role by connecting them to Bill Gates, a radio host. Gates was pleased with their talents and gave them the name Bee Gees, which later evolved into the iconic Bee Gees, a combination of their initials and Gates and Goods. Contrary to popular perception, the name does not directly connect to Brothers Gibb. Performing at the Redcliffe Speedway, the twins attracted audiences who lavished them with cash, feeding their musical ambitions. Through devotion and hard work, they attracted the notice of Cole Joy, an Australian music icon who assisted them in securing a recording contract with Festival Records subsidiary Leadon Records in 1963. They issued singles under the moniker Bee Gees, and Barry wrote songs for other Australian musicians, slowly establishing themselves in the music scene. Their brilliance was recognized, and they were chosen to be the supporting act for Chubby Checker's concert. By 1963, the Gibbs had moved to Maroubra, Sydney, where they continued to pursue their musical interests. Robin Gibb's moving tribute to their time in Sydney captures the profound influence of their Australian experience. Despite their efforts, commercial success remained elusive, and Festival Records considered dismissing them from their roster. Their fortunes changed when they met Nat Kipner, an American-born songwriter and producer who became their manager and helped them move to Spin Records, a new independent company. This critical shift gave them the opportunity to engage with engineer-producer Ossie Byrne, who allowed them access to his St. Clair studio in Hurstville, Sydney. The Bee Gees experienced a dramatic era of maturation here, honing their recording skills. They recorded original material under Byrne's direction, including Spicks and Specks, their breakthrough smash. They also performed songs by major artists such as the Beatles, demonstrating their range and musical abilities. Working with local musicians, notably members of the beat band Steve and the Board, improved their creative process. Despite their growing popularity in Australia, the Bee Gees felt obliged to return to England in January 1967, joined by Ossie Byrne. As they began their voyage, they learned of their success in Australia, where Spicks and Specks was named the best single of the year by Go Set, Australia's leading music newspaper. Their stay in Australia created the groundwork for the Bee Gees' stratospheric rise to global stardom, demonstrating their tenacity, perseverance, and undying love for music. International fame and touring years. In 1967, the Bee Gees went on a historic journey that would propel them to international recognition and cement their place as one of the era's most prominent musical bands. The Gibb brothers, Barry, Robin, and Maurice, left their native Australia and set their sights on England, the hub of the global music scene. Hugh Gibb, their father, played an important role in their transformation by sending demo tapes to Brian Epstein, the Beatles' renowned manager. Epstein recognized their promise and forwarded the cassettes to Robert Stigwood, who had recently joined NEM's, a notable music management company. Stigwood was so impressed with their talent that he immediately set up an audition with the Bee Gees. Following a successful audition, the Bee Gees signed a 5-year contract with Polydor Records in the UK and Atco Records in the United States, which marked the start of their international music career. With Stigwood's help, they began production on their first worldwide record, ushering in a new chapter in their musical careers. Stigwood's admiration for the Bee Gees was limitless, describing them as the most significant new musical talent of 1967. This proclamation sparked comparisons between the Bee Gees and the Beatles, paving the way for their meteoric climb to fame. Before recording their first album, the band expanded to include Colin Peterson and Vince Melouney, bringing more depth to their roster. Their second British single, New York Mining Disaster 1941, had a big impact, and its blank white label led some DJs to mistake it for a new Beatles album. This misconception drove the song to the top 20 of the UK and US charts, bringing the Bee Gees worldwide exposure. To Love Somebody, another excellent track, showed Barry Gibb's soulful vocals and compositional abilities. Originally written for Otis Redding, the song became a pop staple, receiving praise from both audiences and performers. Its triumph cemented the Bee Gees' reputation as outstanding songwriters and singers. The publication of their initial worldwide album, Bee Gees First, represented a watershed moment in their career. Bill Shepherd produced the album, which peaked at number 7 in the United States and number 8 in the United Kingdom, announcing their entry into the international music scene. Following the album's release, the Bee Gees launched a promotional campaign, attracting audiences with their distinct sound and irresistible enthusiasm. The Bee Gees' first BBC session, taped at London's Playhouse Theatre, highlighted their raw brilliance and explosive stage presence. The session, which appears on the compilation BBC Sessions, 1967 to 1973, captures the spirit of the Bee Gees' early years and artistic progression. During their inaugural performance in New York, the Bee Gees were dubbed the English Surprise by the audience. Their performance on the classic television show Top of the Pops confirmed their status as emerging stars, as they performed alongside great bands such as the Rolling Stones. With their newfound fame, the Bee Gees spent no time making their sophomore album, Horizontal, in 1968. Tracks such as Massachusetts and World topped the UK charts, demonstrating a more mature sound. Their Scandinavian tour and appearances on prominent television shows expanded their fan base and cemented their status as international sensations. Despite their meteoric rise, the Bee Gees encountered difficulties, including Robin's fall and hospitalization in 1968, which reminded them of the pressures of stardom. Nonetheless, their perseverance and determination carried them through, and they continued to make music that resonated around the world. As the 1960s came to a conclusion, singles like Words and I've Gotta Get a Message to You dominated the charts, establishing the Bee Gees' legacy. Odessa, Cucumber Castle, and Breakup. In 1969, conflicts emerged within the Bee Gees, mainly between Robin and manager Robert Stigwood. Robin felt neglected, feeling Barry was given preferential treatment as the group's leader, which led to growing resentment. Their appearances on Top of the Pops and The Tom Jones Show were some of the Bee Gees' last live performances with Robin. Songs like I Started a Joke and First of May demonstrated their musical prowess one last time together. Their following record, originally intended as a concept album called Masterpiece, evolved into the double album Odessa. Odessa was praised as their best work of the 1960s, with a variety of musical styles such as progressive rock, country, and ballads. Hits such as Melody Fair and First of May received accolades, with the latter being a UK top 10 smash. Robin left the Bee Gees, dissatisfied with the group's direction, to pursue a solo career. The publication of their first compilation album, Best of Bee Gees, which included songs like Words and Spicks and Specks, signaled the end of an era. As Robin began his solo career, Barry, Maurice, and Peterson continued as the Bee Gees, creating their second album, Cucumber Castle. Their first appearance without Robin at Talk of the Town signaled a new beginning. Their sister, Leslie Gibb, briefly joined as Robin's substitute. They filmed a television program with Frankie Howerd and other guests. However, disagreements led to Peterson's departure, and Terry Cox replaced him for the album's recording. Despite the release of Cucumber Castle in early 1970, it appeared that the Bee Gees' voyage was over. Although Don't Forget to Remember was a success in the UK, subsequent singles flopped. Barry and Maurice pursued individual ventures, with Maurice recording his debut solo album, The Loner, and Barry releasing the single I'll Kiss Your Memory, which was backed by This Time. Meanwhile, Robin gained success with tunes such as Saved by the Bell, which peaked at number 2 in the UK charts, The Reformation. In the early 1970s, the Bee Gees experienced a watershed point in their career. Following previous confrontations and separations, the brothers, Barry, Robin, and Maurice, decided to rejoin, which marked a key turning point. Robin's attempt to contact Barry while on vacation in Spain initiated the reunion. In August 1970, they made an official announcement. The Bee Gees were back and stronger than ever. This reunion was more than just about music. It was about healing old scars and rekindling their love. Maurice readily acknowledged the need to address previous issues, apologizing for any harsh words or actions exchanged. With a renewed feeling of togetherness and drive, the Bee Gees set out on a mission to reignite their musical spark and retake their spot in the business. Their comeback album, 2 Years On, released in late 1970, marked their victorious return to the spotlight. The lead song, Lonely Days, soared fast to number 3 in the United States. The Bee Gees' recovery was bolstered by appearances on famous TV shows such as The Johnny Cash Show and The Ed Sullivan Show, which cemented their standing as musical icons. The Bee Gees' winning streak continued in 1971 with the publication of their 9th album, Trafalgar. The album's main single, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, became their first #1 hit in the United States, earning them critical acclaim and a Grammy Award nomination. Their music also achieved popularity in the film business, with songs appearing on the soundtrack to the film Melody. The next year, the Bee Gees maintained their momentum with the release of the non-album single My World, which peaked at number 16 on the US charts. Their single Run to Me from the album To Whom It May Concern helped to solidify their comeback, sending them back into the UK top 10 for the first time in years. Despite obstacles such as personnel changes during recording sessions, the three stayed dedicated to each other and their music. However, by 1973, the Bee Gees had faced challenges that tested their fortitude. Their album Life in a Tin Can and lead single Saw a New Morning did not make a huge impact, selling poorly and failing to connect with fans. The publication of the compilation album Best of Bee Gees Volume 2 fell short of expectations. Despite setbacks, the Bee Gees continued to demonstrate their variety and adaptability. Their performances on shows like the Midnight Special proved their desire to experiment with new musical styles, demonstrating their abilities among legends such as Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry. Despite the ups and downs of the music industry, the Bee Gees remained dedicated to expanding their style and pushing creative boundaries. Working with soul music producer Arif Mardin on their album Mr. Natural, they took a new path influenced by R&B, laying the groundwork for their future success. With the addition of outstanding musicians such as guitarist Alan Kendall and drummer Dennis Bryan, the Bee Gees welcomed change and creativity, ushering in a new period of experimentation and artistic development. Maurice's decision to focus on bass guitar on stage broadened their sound and laid the framework for the Bee Gees' unique style to evolve during the late 1970s, turning to disco. In the mid-1970s, the Bee Gees underwent a transformation, shifting their musical approach to disco. This transformation was prompted by their move to Miami, Florida, at the urging of Eric Clapton, where they began recording at Criteria Studios. Previously known for their ballads, the brothers embraced a more dance-oriented disco style under the direction of producer Arif Mardin and manager Robert Stigwood, marking a watershed moment in their careers. The album Main Course, published in 1975, was the foundation of this transformation. Tracks like Jive Talkin' and Nights on Broadway exemplified their unique approach to disco, with addictive rhythms and Barry Gibb's unusual falsetto vocals that would eventually become renowned. The album's success boosted the Bee Gees' fame, with 2 top 10 singles in the United States, demonstrating their newfound groove. Around the same time, the Bee Gees broke into uncharted ground by recording Beatles covers for the film All This in World War II. Although the film did not meet expectations, it demonstrated the Bee Gees' versatility and willingness to experiment with various musical styles, predicting their future success. The Bee Gees' disco rule was confirmed with the release of Children of the World in 1976. Barry's falsetto voice, combined with synthesizer-driven disco sounds, carried the record. The lead single, You Should Be Dancing, became a hit, catapulting the Bee Gees to unparalleled levels of popularity in the United States. Despite some opposition from devoted fans, their mix of R&B and disco struck a chord with the masses, as proven by chart-topping successes such as Love So Right and Boogie Child. However, their involvement in the development of the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was what truly defined the Bee Gees era. Initially not involved in the project, producer Robert Stigwood tasked the brothers with writing songs for the soundtrack. In a single weekend, they created numerous timeless singles, including Stayin' Alive and How Deep Is Your Love. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, released in 1977, became a cultural phenomenon, epitomizing the disco period and propelling the Bee Gees to superstardom. The album's unprecedented success broke records, making it one of the best-selling soundtracks in history and cementing the Bee Gees' status as disco icons. Their domination was cemented by consecutive chart-topping singles and many Grammy Awards for their contributions to the soundtrack. The Bee Gees' tunes dominated the radio, topping the U.S. charts for weeks on end. Barry Gibb even set records as a songwriter, solidifying their standing as musical icons. Despite their spectacular rise, the Bee Gees received criticism when disco faded out of favor by the end of the 1970s. The disco reaction, driven by events such as Disco Demolition Night, contributed to a drop in the Bee Gees' popularity in the United States. The band's turmoil and decline. Throughout the early 1980s, the Bee Gees were involved in a slew of side enterprises, individual businesses, and legal problems. Robin Gibb ventured into production, co-producing Jimmy Ruffin's album Sunrise, which featured tunes by the Gibb brothers, including the hit single Hold On to My Love, which was released in May 1980. Meanwhile, Barry Gibb started on a collaborative voyage with Barbra Streisand, which culminated in the legendary album Guilty. Barry co-produced and co-wrote all 9 tracks, including the chart-topping single Woman in Love, which he collaborated on with Robin. The album debuted at #1 in the United States and the United Kingdom, marking a watershed moment in Streisand's professional career. In 1981, the Bee Gees released their final album, Living Eyes, on RSO Records. Despite their prior success, the album struggled to make an effect on the charts due to the lingering disco reaction, and they were unable to sustain their top 40 hit streak. The Bee Gees expanded their songwriting skills by collaborating with Dionne Warwick on her comeback single, Heartbreaker. The track, which was mostly written by Gibbs, garnered commercial success, peaking at #2 in the UK and #1 on the US Adult Contemporary chart. They also contributed to Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers' smash, Islands in the Stream, which reached the top of the charts in the United States and Australia. Despite their artistic achievements, the Bee Gees encountered legal issues. In 1983, they were sued by artist Ronald Sell for allegedly plagiarizing his song Let It End in their hit How Deep Is Your Love. Despite originally losing the case, the ruling was later overturned, bringing comfort to the band. During the legal problems, Barry pursued a solo career, signing with MCA Records in 1983. He spent much of his time writing songs for his debut solo album, Now Voyager. Meanwhile, Robin and Maurice worked on their own solo projects, releasing albums like How Old Are You?, Secret Agent, and Walls Have Eyes. Despite the hurdles and diversions, the Bee Gees maintained their influence in the music industry. Their songwriting abilities were in high demand, as proven by their collaboration on Diana Ross's album, Eaten Alive. The title tune, co-written with Michael Jackson and co-produced by Barry Gibb, was a chart-topping hit in the United Kingdom and Australia, cementing the Bee Gees' standing as prolific songwriters, the return to popularity, and Andy's death. In the late 1980s and 90s, the Bee Gees began on a spectacular rebirth, battling personal obstacles, celebrating victories, and ultimately leaving an unforgettable influence on the music business. Following a break, the Bee Gees made a triumphant comeback in 1987 with their album ESP. The lead single, You Win Again, stormed to the top of global charts, cementing the group's reputation as a musical giant. This was a notable milestone because they became the first band to have #1 hits in 3 successive decades: 1960s, the 70s, and 80s. The Bee Gees were not happy with only performing music. They also participated in humanitarian projects. They founded the Bunburys, a band with Eric Clapton that recorded songs to benefit English charities. Their efforts were widely recognized, with their single Fight No Matter How Long reaching #8 on the rock music chart. Despite their professional success, the Bee Gees experienced personal tragedy with the death of their younger brother, Andy, in 1988. His death severely saddened the brothers, prompting them to pay tribute to him on their album, One. The song Wish You Were Here became a moving tribute to Andy's memory, resonating with people all around the world. Despite dealing with health challenges and personal struggles, such as Barry's back troubles and Maurice's alcoholism, the Bee Gees persevered. They continued to release albums, including High Civilization and Size Isn't Everything, which demonstrated their lasting originality and musical talent. Despite facing issues in the US market during this time, their popularity in the UK remained consistent. Hits like Secret Love and For Whom the Bell Tolls established their ability to appeal to audiences on both sides of the Atlantic. The Bee Gees were honored with the prestigious Outstanding Contribution to Music Award at the Brit Awards in 1997, recognizing their enormous influence on the music business. The following year, they wowed fans with a remarkable live show in Las Vegas, which included heartfelt tributes to Andy and special guest appearances. Despite early plans to retire owing to Barry's health worries, the Bee Gees proceeded on their farewell global tour, One Night Only. This tour served as a bittersweet farewell, displaying their timeless hits and enthralling audiences globally. The tour concluded with a momentous performance in Sydney's Olympic Stadium in 1999, signaling the end of an era for the renowned trio. As the 20th century came to an end, the Bee Gees performed their final full-scale concert, known as BG2K, on December 31st, 1999. This Is Where I Came In and Maurice's death. Between 2000 and 2008, the Bee Gees endured both glory and heartbreak, signaling the end of an era for the renowned three. In 2001, they released their final album of new songs, This Is Where I Came In. The album was successful, hitting the top 10 in the UK and the top 20 in the United States. The title track also peaked at number 20 in the UK charts, demonstrating the Bee Gees' continued popularity. However, tragedy struck in 2003 when Maurice Gibb died unexpectedly at the age of 53. His death shocked his brothers and followers worldwide. Initially, Barry and Robin wished to continue performing as the Bee Gees in honor of Maurice. However, they later chose to retire the group's name, keeping it as a symbol of the three brothers together. Despite their loss, the Bee Gees were honored for their contributions to music. They received the Grammy Legend Award in February 2003, making them the first awardees of the 21st century. During the somber occasion, Barry, Robin, and Maurice's son, Adam, accepted the prestigious honor. Barry and Robin Gibb were awarded the CBE in May 2004 at Buckingham Palace, while Adam accepted Maurice's posthumous honor. Despite their personal sadness, the brothers persevered in their artistic ambitions. Robin went on a solo tour in late 2004, while Barry worked with iconic singers such as Barbra Streisand and Cliff Richard. Their music remained popular with audiences, with Barry's collaboration with Cliff Richard, I Cannot Give You My Love, being a UK top 20 hit. Barry and Robin returned on stage in February 2006 for a charity concert in Miami, their first public performance together since Maurice's death. Their connection and musical partnership survived, and they played at the Prince's Trust concert in the United Kingdom in May 2006, returned to performing, and Robin's death. In 2009, Barry Gibb collaborated with Olivia Newton-John on a special performance at Sydney's Sydney Cricket Ground as part of Sound Relief, a benefit for victims of the horrific Victorian bushfires. The concert was broadcast nationally in Australia. Later that year, Barry and Robin were named Freemen of the Borough of Douglas on the Isle of Man, with Maurice receiving the accolade posthumously. In late 2009, Barry and Robin revealed that they would record and perform together again as the Bee Gees. They have appeared on television shows such as Strictly Come Dancing and Dancing with the Stars. In 2010, they had the privilege of inducting ABBA into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and surprising fans with a cameo appearance on American Idol's season finale. Robin Gibb, 61, was diagnosed with liver cancer in 2011, a tragic event. Despite his condition, he took part in the Coming Home charity concert to assist injured servicemen. However, his condition deteriorated, and he was hospitalized in a Chelsea hospital on April 2012 after acquiring pneumonia. Despite briefly emerging from a coma, Robin's condition deteriorated, and he died on May 20, 2012, from liver and renal failure. The death of Robin signaled the end of an era for the Bee Gees and had a significant impact on the music industry. His efforts, along with those of his brothers Barry and Maurice, are still honored and treasured by fans around the world. Looking back at a lifetime of music, the Bee Gees' legacy thrived in the years following the millennium, thanks to a variety of projects and tributes. In 2013, Barry Gibb went on his first solo tour to commemorate his brothers and his own long musical journey. This tour was a loving tribute to their combined contribution to the world of music. Furthermore, in 2014, Warner Brothers Records issued a complete box set named The Warner Brothers Years, 1987 to 1991. This anthology included the band's latter works, including albums like ESP, One, and High Civilization, as well as extended mixes and live recordings. It gave fans a better understanding of the Bee Gees' growth throughout this time. The documentary The Joy of the Bee Gees aired on BBC4 in 2014, highlighting the band's impact and relevance. This enlightening video offered audiences a comprehensive look at the Bee Gees' brilliant career, highlighting their long-lasting influence on the music industry. In 2015, 13 Star Records released a comprehensive box set. This collection included key albums such as Mr. Natural, Main Course, and Children of the World, as well as tunes from the classic Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. It demonstrated the Bee Gees' tremendous output during this transformational era. Despite Maurice Gibb's death in 2003, the Bee Gees' musical legacy remained popular with audiences around the world. Barry Gibb, in particular, stayed committed to preserving their legacy, culminating with the release of his third solo studio album, Greenfields, in 2021. This CD, which features reinterpreted Bee Gees classics in an acoustic manner, received critical acclaim and underlined the ongoing power of the Bee Gees' music on successive generations, legacy and recognition. The Bee Gees, made up of brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb, left an unforgettable effect on the music business with their iconic sound, compelling songs, and exceptional songwriting abilities. The three formed in 1958 in Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, and initially focused on pop music, showing their close harmonies and appealing songwriting. After going to the United Kingdom in the early 1960s, they achieved popularity with singles like Spicks and Specks and To Love Somebody. However, their height of popularity came in the late 1970s with the release of the Saturday Night Fever album, which included singles like Stayin' Alive and Night Fever. This drove them to global superstardom, where they dominated charts and dance floors throughout the world and won many Grammy Awards. Despite experiencing criticism and a loss in popularity following the disco era, The Bee Gees expanded into country pop, adult contemporary, and rock, demonstrating their versatility. Their contributions as songwriters and producers expanded their reach, with songs like Islands in the Stream for Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. Beyond music, their distinctive falsetto vocals and trendy clothes became synonymous with disco, influencing fashion and film. Despite personal and professional setbacks, including the unexpected deaths of Maurice in 2003 and Robin in 2012, their legacy continues to inspire future generations. The Bee Gees' music, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame, is ageless and celebrated around the world. Thank you for watching the video. Stay tuned for more exciting ones.